Buckle up, Ink fam. This week we're hanging with the one and only Lu Skywalker, tattoo wizard, convention legend, and recovering Slim Jim addict. From face-tatted rebels to AI art thieves, we're diving deep into the wild world of tattooing with zero filter. We're talking mental health, gatekeeping drama, and why tattooing needs a revolution. Plus, the real reason Post Malone might just be the industry's MVP. Stick around, you don't want to miss this episode. This is the business of tattooing. Well, how you been, dude? I haven't seen you it's been years, I feel like.
Yeah, at least like 5 years, maybe
Yeah.
more. I've been
So,
good.
so what you been up to, man?
Just, bought a house, got married, and just doing that, just trying to build a life.
Yeah, yeah. How's mental state these days? You doing good? You healthy?
Yeah, 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 yeah. You know, I I'm in my 30s now. You met me in like my 20s and stuff, and like I just started to like really realize how important taking care of your body is as a tattooer. Like
Yeah.
my body just started betraying me. I was constantly getting sick. My back hurt. So it's like now I go to the gym like every day.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Definitely helps the brain too. Like you don't really realize how much like your body feeling like shit makes your brain feel like shit.
Yeah, yeah. So when I met you, what kind of were your habits back then? Because I know we talked a little bit, we kind of met on the trail when you were with Ink Fusion and
Yeah, yeah.
we were doing the Comic-Con stuff and all. That's kind of how I think we first met and all that. But what were your habits as an artist back then? I mean, like how frequently were you traveling to shows? Like you obviously were probably eating like shit and everything else, that goes along with that travel thing.
Oh yeah. Dude, my habits were bad for like at least 10 years of my career. I would stay up late, 4 or 5 a.m. playing video games. I survived on Slim Jims and yellow Red Bull. And I was never home. I was always on the road. I think I would be at my at the shop that I was working at the time. I think I was at Wild Child maybe or Artisan. But like when I was traveling, I would maybe be there for like a week at a time every month because I was just on the road hitting it 24/7. Just terrible habits. I was like a heavy cigarette smoker too.
You stopped smoking now?
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part.
That's great. What are you doing? Are you vaping now or some? Did you
Uh, Once in a
transition to that?
while, I'm like the kind of husband that like my wife vapes, so I'll just be like, oh, let me get a little hit of that. So I just like I'll puff her vape once in a while, but it's like, dude, vapes are like crazy, right? Because like the nicotine hit off it is like insane.
Right.
It's not like a cig. I can see exactly why people are like crazy addicted to vapes. It's like it tastes like candy and then it makes you feel good.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that much about them. I stopped smoking when I was like in my 30s, so like 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
you don't
So
need to know about them.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know what the difference is between besides what you just said. I don't know as far as because cigarettes have all kinds of unhealthy shit in them, like because of the
Oh
process
yeah.
chemicals that they add in there and all that. So I guess you probably don't have all that in the vape, but maybe you do. I don't, maybe it's just different chemicals. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it is different chemicals because like they're saying people are getting like popcorn lung. I don't know what that means, but that sounds terrible. So it's like at least you weren't getting that with cigs. You're just getting, good old cancer.
Yeah, dude. So that you weren't exercising at all when you were traveling before, like
N
when I met you, right?
no,
No
literally
gym, no
never.
nothing.
I was like anti-exercise. I was
You-
like I was a well-oiled machine. I was like I only need like 8 Slim Jims and like 5 Red Bulls a day. I don't need exercise.
So are you still, I mean, obviously you're still like heavily influenced by pop culture and stuff. How much are you still are you still going to Comic Cons like just as a spectator or like are you kind of disconnected from that scene now?
Oh yeah, I definitely still go to Comic Cons as like a spectator. I go a lot now for like competitions. So a lot of comic book conventions have like card competitions and I go and like compete in those and stuff.
So what kind of games are you playing?
I play this card game called One Piece.
Oh yeah, yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like
That's like the anime One Piece, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So they made like a Magic the Gathering type card game out of it. And it's got a pretty decent following. I think it's like the eighth or ninth most played in the United States right now.
Okay. So they have competitions for those at the Comic Cons.
What's that?
So they're doing competitions with those with that card
Oh
game
yeah,
at
yeah,
Comic
yeah.
Cons?
Yeah, you can win like exclusive like cards or like, winner cards and stuff like that. A lot of the conventions now host One Piece tournaments.
Cool, cool. So what have you done basically? I mean, what have you been up to tattoo wise? I know you've moved around a little bit. You've changed some shops and whatnot. So where are you at in your tattoo career these days? Where are you working at? What's the scene look like these days for you?
Currently I'm at a studio in what's the town called? In Carnegie, PA. It's like right outside Pittsburgh. It's called Infinite Image. I work with this guy, Tony Frank. He's like super talented artist. Um, but like right now, I'm just kind of like laying low, trying to like build my life back up. I had a shop in Chicago and I had to close it down because like the housing market in Chicago is just so bad that we could not buy a house in Chicago. It would have been like $1 million or like, you could buy like a 350K house, but it's like in the hoodest of the hood and it just got renovated. So your house is just and your cars are just going to keep getting like vandalized and stuff.
And it's $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. So like we moved out to PA and like I'm just kind of, building up my savings, working. I'm like organizing once a year we do these like conventions in Monroeville. And it's like a retro gaming convention, but I like host a tattoo pavilion and I like curate the tattooers that come tattoo with us and stuff, make sure they got everything they need, and just kind of like try to give the local community like some quality tattoos that they maybe not wouldn't be able to experience from these artists outside of like, this area or like this special event.
Right, right. So how many artists are coming and doing that?
Including myself, I think last year we had like 15.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So it's just like a little small homey vibe kind of a show.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not big like a tattoo show. The big focus on it is like we put together like the largest like retro arcade in the United States for the weekend. Like just a bunch of different arcade machines that take up like 80% of the convention area. And then we got us tattooing and then like other vendors and stuff.
Okay, so you get a lot of foot traffic coming in. You do like
Oh
all the
yeah.
advertising for it and everything too.
Oh yeah, a ton. Like we spend the year basically advertising for it, and then when it comes to it, we're busy all weekend. Whenever I like invite my friends to it, I just tell them it's like guaranteed money. Like draw whatever you want, and like 1,000% people are going to get it.
Right, right, right. So what other vendors do you have there? Just general art people and like all kinds of
Like
stuff, or
artisans, like crafters, people that make their own minifigs for like, Warhammer and like D&D and stuff like that. We have a few indie developers that come to it and like, showcase their indie game. We have not a bunch of, maybe like one or two card shops that like sell cards and stuff. Um, what else do we have? We have like some food vendors, like local kind of like snack people and stuff that like make their homemade
when does that
things.
take place?
It's the first weekend of October.
Okay, so how many years have you been doing that now?
I think this will be the fifth year that we've done it.
Okay.
And like it's crazy because like the first time we ever did it, it was really small. We just had a bunch of like collectors basically get together in the like upstairs of a barcade and then we set up like a swap meet and we're just calling it Pittsburgh Retro Gaming Expo. But it's like 50 dudes in like a really hot room selling each other video games. And it
Yeah.
somehow evolved into like, this event where I think last year we had like 10 or 15,000 people come through.
Dang, that's pretty good.
So yeah, it was pretty impressive to watch it grow like from like literal grassroots nothing to like we have an entire convention center booked out for it.
So how's the tattoo scene around Pittsburgh these days? I mean, I know it's been pretty shaky in the industry for, ever since COVID. I say really it's been kind of like a pretty shaky space to navigate. How's the scene look like around Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh is a really weird scene from any tattoo city that I've like been in. It used to be really poppin', like around 2014 to like 2017. There's this street called Carson Street where there's like I think like 30 or 40 tattoo shops in a row. And today there's maybe like 10 or 15 now because they've all like closed down. But yeah, Pittsburgh is like a very weird city because there's no regulation here at all whatsoever. So like any Joe Schmo can buy like machines off Amazon, buy like, Mom's Ink off Amazon, and then open up a storefront. You don't need even like insurance or anything. Like
Right, right.
nobody's here to regulate it. There's no health department. There's zero regulation. So like the unprofessional tattoo scene here is absolutely rampant. It's insane. And there's like a lot of I think maybe in the last 2 years, mostly everybody's like shifted toward private studios. There's like zero community in Pittsburgh. Like I don't think I've ever heard of like tattoo shops that like hang out with each other. Not like back in Chicago. Like my friends and I we all worked at different shops and we'd meet up for dinners and get together to draw. But like it's super disconnected in Pittsburgh. There's no community whatsoever.
That's crazy because I really like Pittsburgh. Obviously I'm friends with Sarah and Wild Child, so I've spent time there, and then Tim Seitz has a shop there, so I was there in the beginning of all that. So I spent quite a bit of time in Pittsburgh, over the years, and I really like that city. I just think it's a cool city in general, and like it's surprising that it's not more regulated and just more of a serious tattoo scene there. That's kind of
Yeah, I think that's really what's affecting it. I guess like the not the quality because you still see a lot of really good tattoos coming out and stuff, but I think it severely affects just the community and the way that like the public views tattooing.
yeah, it's wild because I checked out a lot of the shops in Pittsburgh when I was spending time there, even just looking in some windows and things like that. And I was pretty impressed with some of the shops. I thought there was some really upscale, where people actually put some good money and,
Oh yeah.
effort into making a really aesthetically pleasing environment. And I thought, man, this is pretty nice town for a tattoo scene. And even in the time I spent there, I really never knew that it was that big of an issue like that.
Oh yeah, and it's only grown like since COVID. Basically, so like I would say maybe 50% of the tattoo shops closed down during COVID. And then afterwards, it just like there was about like maybe 6, 7 months that people couldn't actually like legally work. I mean, tattooers were doing whatever they really wanted during the time, but there was like you couldn't be in your storefront and shit. So a lot of people like just taught themselves how to tattoo at home watching YouTube. And now we got like, 1,000 extra tattooers just doing I wouldn't say bad work because some of it's actually pretty nice, but just doing like amateurish
Sure,
designs.
sure. How do you feel like social media has kind of played a part in that? And because I feel like TikTok especially has really like elevated that unprofessional
Oh yeah.
element in the tattoo scene. Like I see all the time just people buying Amazon tattoo kits, and even a lot of times I see videos where people are even tattooing without gloves on TikTok. I'm
Oh,
like, what the fuck?
oh, like I think TikTok contributed to it massively. Like it's just such a big information hub that, watching 2, 3 videos, you can figure out everything you need to know to like order and buy the supplies you need to like just fuck yourself and your friends up.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me.
And like the fact that it was so visible, like you would see somebody that has no business tattooing, and then like it in a weird way like inspired a bunch of other people and they were like, "Oh, well, like I'm not really an artist and I'm not necessarily good at this, but I want tattoos, so I'm just gonna do them on myself." And then this like style of like kind of really scratchy looking realism and line work was like birthed from it.
Yeah, and it's crazy. There's a guy, I still don't know if the guy's actually a legitimate tattoo artist and it's just a gimmick that he's playing because it's worked really well, or if he's actually a really shit tattoo artist and it's worked really well for him, like you're saying. And I can't even remember what his name is, but he basically just does like stick figure tattoos.
Yeah, I
And
think it's like
the account has like 1 million plus followers, and like I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think it's also just like the younger generations. I've watched a lot of them talk about how, our generation like loves detailed color, black and gray tattoos. We like shit that looks good, that objectively looks the way it's supposed to. And like these younger generations, they think that's corny. Like they think that trying and putting that much effort into something is like corny, which I just like blows my mind. Like since when was like putting effort into something corny? But that's like the sentiment coming from the younger generations. They're like, "Oh, you're doing too much." Like, that's too much. Like, I just want this little thing, and this little thing is like I'm, you know, trying to, get my mind around what I'm even looking at on them.
Right. Yeah, I feel like we could go down a serious rabbit hole on that angle just because, like, with AI and everything, and I just feel like even AI itself is contributing so much on a
Oh
broad
yeah.
scale to that mentality. It's like a really, I've been watching just a ton of YouTube videos just around like the effect AI is having on society today, not just in tattooing, but just in all areas. So it's like as good as AI can be for some things, it's kind of a really scary concept long term because it could really seriously be a huge detriment to humanity. Like,
I think AI has gotten rid of a lot of critical thinking in people. Like, instead of people, taking time to like try to understand the things that are in front of them or whatever, they just hop on ChatGPT and take the first thing it says as like, Bible.
right, right. And if you
And,
fact checked a lot of that, it's not even, you really have to fact check everything that,
oh yeah, especially like ChatGPT, you could talk ChatGPT into agreeing with you about everything, and
right,
it'll find sources that corroborate all of your
right, right.
feelings. Like it's not, it's biased towards the user.
Sure. Yeah, I was even watching a video where it was talking about training Chat GPT to not act that way, right? Like you want it
Yep.
to be an unbiased source. You want it to give you as close to truth as possible, but you have to train it to do that.
Yeah, you literally just have to use like certain keywords so that it just doesn't go off the rails and start using like opinion.
To me, it's really scary because when you look at like the movies we used to watch back in the 80s and 90s, like,
Oh yeah, we created Terminator. That's the crazy part. Like we made
yeah,
Skynet, and Skynet is like happening as we.
yeah,
And
that's
then like you see these like Boston Dynamics robots that can like fucking break dance and like robots that are like horses that can jump like 10 feet in the air and traverse mountains. Like we're done. We're done. The
yeah,
moment they can think for themselves, which is probably like, I don't know, 30 minutes from now, we're done.
right,
Like they're gonna just start drone striking people for fun.
right. And then you think about like even like news sources, like if you go on YouTube or whatever, you can't even tell what's real and fake anymore because there's so much AI generated content out there. Even like news stories and stuff. It's like, wait, did
And
that
it
really happen? Like, what the fuck?
and it's so refined. That's like the scary part. Like we went from AI, like you would see these AI videos and be like, okay, that's clearly AI because it looks like a really demented version of Will Smith eating spaghetti. But now you have these full AI videos of like reporters talking to people on the street and them responding. They have facial expressions and there's like gravitas to their voice and like it feels like a human and you're like, we're done. We're cooked. This
It's
is this
crazy,
is it's
bro.
over.
It's crazy. Are you using AI at all in tattooing? Are you using it to help design tattoos or any of that kind of stuff?
So when Midjourney first came out, it was like the new big thing. And it wasn't until I realized how a lot of like the imagery was sourced and stuff that I stopped completely using it. Like I learned that it basically combs the internet, steals people's artwork from DeviantArt, from Google, from every facet of the internet, and then uses it to like compile these images and stuff. So I've been kind of going like the opposite way, where like I try to source all my images like ethically and all my stuff ethically. So I've been leaning a lot toward 3D. So whenever I have something new that I want to do that like I can't necessarily find a reference for or like the reference has just been done to death over and over and over, I look for a 3D model of the thing that I'm trying to tattoo. I download it, look at it on my computer, put a light source on it, and then rotate it to whatever angle I need. And then I'll do that over and over with different 3D models until I have the design that I want. And that way, the person that modeled this thing is getting money from me. I'm getting to use a new image that's like, hasn't been recycled on Google a billion times and nobody's getting hurt from it. Nobody's getting taken advantage of. Their art isn't being plagiarized or anything. But like, I feel like if AI was ethically sourced, like if they were able to build an AI, especially for like generating images and stuff that was sourced from like people that consented or submitted their own work or whatever, I'd be down to use something like that again because I felt like when I was using it, it was like almost too easy. Like you could really get some unique imagery out of it and like get really specific things that like aren't really available on Google or whatever.
Yeah, have you had any clients come in with like AI generated images and be like, "Yeah, I want you to tattoo this on me," or have you
Oh
gotten
yeah.
that?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because I can see that becoming a big thing in the industry where which isn't necessarily a bad thing in my mind because I was just talking with somebody else on the show a few weeks ago and we were talking about this and how, back before even Procreate and even like Google was really a major resource for us to be able to find image references. We'd have to look through magazines and it was just a really tedious process to put designs together for your clients, and then you could spend a half a day to a day just drawing up something for somebody, and then they come in to the shop and sit down with you on the day to get it, and they're like, "Well, I don't like this or I don't like that. Let's change that." And then you got to spend another half a day trying to rework the design. So I can see some benefit in that in regards to like if a client came in like with their crazy idea and it's kind of mapped out through an AI generated image, and they've kind of done that prep work and give you some kind of insight into what their mind's kind of thinking about. I can see some benefit there, but I wouldn't necessarily want to take an image straight from AI and tattoo that on somebody though.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's helped the client a lot because they're able to like give you sort of like a jumping off point. Like I've had a bunch of people like generate AI images. They're like, I want kind of something like this, but like make it your own. This is just how I was able to like get it out of my imagination. I think that's a really good resource for clients because like maybe even if you don't necessarily use the reference that they're giving you, like you actually get the sentiment and the idea of what they're trying to convey. Because like verbally, like sometimes you just don't get what your client's trying to tell you. And like you could draw it over and over again and it's just the picture, isn't gelling with what they're saying. But like AI, like, they're able to put in these like keywords and get this thing that like in in short, like kind of represents what their mind is like thinking.
Right, right. Yeah. Have you used AI at all for like management solutions, like to help you book appointments or send emails or any of that kind of stuff? Have you looked?
Yeah, I had like a booking form that was run by AI that basically like took in bookings and then sent back like a generic email. But like I think the company was just really bad about deving their back end because like the emails would come 2 or 3 days late, or it would like send the same like greeting email to people like 100 times in a row, and they'd be like, "Dude, stop sending me this email." And I'm like, "Oh, crap." But I stopped using it because of that. But I think like stuff like that is like ethically programmed AI. Like people are like they're not stealing like imagery or code from each other. They're like programming to do this thing. That's why it's so fallible and like, makes so many mistakes. But I think, well, I was using that about like 2 or 3 years ago. So I think at this point it's gotta be more refined and I wouldn't be opposed to like going that route so that I could circumvent like, losing out on like meeting a new client or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy to me because it's almost like we're being forced to have to use AI, right? In the
Yeah.
progression of the evolution of, technology and all that stuff. I feel like, especially as a business owner, like not necessarily as a tattoo artist, but as a business owner, just in any general business, I feel like businesses that don't really evolve with AI are probably going to be the ones that fall behind pretty quickly in comparison to the businesses and industries that are really adapting to it and gravitating and trying to implement as much of it as they can. I even saw like they have like AI salespeople now that will call people on the phone, and like I was watching them like do these demos with people, and they had this guy just pick up the phone and he was talking to this AI agent, and this AI agent was basically walking them through a sales pitch and the guy had no idea that he was even talking to an AI agent. Like even when he was asking questions to the thing, it was super fast responding, and it had a response that made sense to the question that he was asking. And I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like they're not even going to have to pay humans to be salespeople pretty soon. I guess my biggest concern with AI is like, how many jobs is it going to eliminate, and what's that going to do to society? Like, right? How much bread is that going to be taken off of people's tables? You know what I mean? And what's that going to do?
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely my biggest concern. And not just that, but it's like, these companies are maximizing profitability with AI and all this, but like life's not getting any easier. Like you think that we would develop all this stuff and then people would have time for like art and joy and family and stuff. But all it does is just like add more stress to the world. Like it's replacing jobs and then people are jobless and there's no benefit to it. Like there's the people that are benefiting and then the people that got screwed over and they have to, start a new career path or learn something new. Um, I think it would be like an even trade-off if like we got life out of it, out of like fucking creating AI and it taking jobs and stuff. I think it would be an even trade-off if we got to just live and enjoy.
Yeah, interesting that you say that because I can see the people enjoying life the most in the immediate future are going to be the ones that really unplug from the grid and really like go off the radar and just disconnect from that whole electronic algorithm in their lives every day and just do that what you said, go out, jump in their car, head to the mountains, just live life and not even be concerned with what's going on in society so much because I feel like that's pretty much exactly where we're heading what you just said because like dude, people are I think mental health is going to become a really big, more so than it already is, right? Like it's going to become a serious contender and thing that we're going to have to really deal with on a large scale. And we
Oh
already
yeah.
can't. We already can't deal with it. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. I think yeah, I feel like AI, if it was like, done right and stuff, it could give everybody, it could increase productivity without human, like people doing it. And like if we're able to, automate enough stuff in life to where people don't have to have those jobs and like it becomes an easier concept to, have universal healthcare, to have like, universal income. um like what's that guy's name? Andrew Yang, that he was talking about just sending people paychecks every day. Like it's like, yeah, that would be the benefit to AI. It's like just getting a paycheck to fucking live your life, to go to the mountains, to discover something new, to take care of your mental health. Like that's what AI should be doing, is like, improving society for people instead of like making it worse.
Right. Right. Yeah. What do you think is the outside of AI? What do you think is the biggest challenge to the tattoo industry today and in the next couple of years? What do you see as the biggest challenge in the space?
I think overregulation and lack of regulation. Like there's no even playing field anywhere. We got like, the EU making these crazy rules that are like making ink companies completely change everything. We got the US that's like state to state regulated. I think that's the biggest challenge in tattooing right now, is to get an even playing field for everyone. Like there's nothing really concise in the tattoo industry across the board, especially like between the US and the UK, or the US and um the EU. Like if we could get one thing or like just everything on the same page, I think it would be a lot easier for tattooing to like grow in like a positive direction.
Do you, in the artists that you're around and that you communicate with and associate with and talk to on a daily basis, do you hear a lot of artists talking about this kind of thing? Or does it seem like people just aren't really like even all that concerned or interested in the topic?
I think it depends on, I guess, your role in tattooing. I think if you're like an owner, a business owner, or like somebody that um cares deeply about like the quality of tattooing and like the quality that people are getting, it's like a big concern to you that there's not a lot of like, concise regulation, or there's not a lot of like information going to public tattooers. Like it's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And then I think the people that like kind of cruise on in tattooing that, found success really easily and aren't really concerned with the minutiae of it all. I think it's like easier for them to kind of disconnect and not have to worry about what what's going on in tattooing or how it could affect them in the future or whatever.
Yeah, whose responsibility do you ultimately feel like it is to kind of um, make progress in those areas in regards to like working with regulators to, because obviously regulations are already here. You're talking about Europe and REACH regulations with tattoo inks. The FDA is already here with MOCRA. They're really scrutinizing the products in the tattoo space now, and considering a lot of things cosmetics.
Mm,
Um, so from the manufacturer's perspective, there's a lot of scrutiny there from regulatory people and organizations like that. How do you feel? Do you feel like it should be the manufacturers that should be spearheading those initiatives, or do you feel like it should be a combination of manufacturers and artists working together to kind of try to? Because I feel like I've been pretty heavily involved in regulations,
mhm.
for the last couple of years, especially, and it's something that I work on pretty much every day. And so, but there does seem to be a very big disconnect between manufacturers and artists. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
there are a lot of artists out there that do really care about transparency in the products that they're using. They want to know the ingredients that are in them. They want to know, you know, are they safe to use? Where are they manufactured? A lot of people want to know if they want to use vegan products, for example. That's been a big thing for several years. So like, in your mind, who do you feel like ultimately should, as an industry, do you feel like we should be working together in that effort, or do you feel like it should fall primarily on the manufacturers or primarily on the artists to kind of self-regulate and just kind of do those things?
I feel like it should be definitely like a combination, like a new third thing. Like we don't have a union, we don't have like, any kind of governing body in tattooing as a whole. Like here, or I don't know about the UK actually, but like in the States definitely there's no like fucking higher governing body that kind of unites tattooers and suppliers and manufacturers and stuff. I think there needs to be some kind of like middle ground where the suppliers, the artists, the manufacturers can all come together and like listen to each other's opinions and what they think is the safest way to move forward in tattooing without having to like pass the cost on to even the tattooer or the client or whatever. There's all these other industries are getting relief from the government and this and that, and like tattooing is in this weird gray area where it's not exactly art, it's not exactly cosmetic, it's not exactly a business, it's not exactly anything. It's like a myriad of all these things, this like combination of stuff. And I feel like we're just kind of left behind because of it.
Mhm.
It's like it's almost too much for some kind of governing body to like take a an interest in wanting to deal with it. But I definitely think like it's up to tattooers and like suppliers and manufacturers together. Like it shouldn't fall solely on the manufacturer because like they also need to have the input of like the community that they're manufacturing for and that they're like, creating product for and stuff.
Right. Well, we do have the APT, which is kind of a trade organization in tattooing but it's specifically for tattoo artists. It is kind of like a trade organization for artists, and they've been around for a really long time. But I feel like there aren't enough artists that really know the APT exists.
Oh yeah, this is the very first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's the Alliance of Professional Tattooists.
Oh yeah, I guess it would be kind of like APP for like piercers or
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like maybe if there's like a, APT like organization or building or something in like every city, or like not every city, maybe one per state, like kind of how in Oregon, like if you want to get certified, you got to go to fucking Salem to go get
Right.
certified a
Right.
tattoo.
Right.
Or if you're in Where was I tattooing at? Or if you're in I think it was Colorado or Utah or something, you have to go to like a government building and like take a test, you know?
Okay. Yeah, you can't just go do a guest spot somewhere. You have to like get on
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, exactly. And like, owners are pretty hardcore about that too. Like in pretty well regulated states because like they know I guess the severity of like what could happen to their business if they don't play by the rules. Like, we asked for these rules and then to not play by them and to not use them and to our own benefit even is it's kind of like spitting in these organizations' faces of like what
Sure.
they're trying to achieve and how they're trying to help us out.
Right. Yeah, so I know well, because I'm a state rep for the APT in Indiana, so like I'm involved in a lot of their meetings and initiatives. So I do know a lot of the things that they're working on. They are trying to formalize education in the tattoo space in regards to like apprenticeships and like not necessarily create a tattoo school, but really just create curriculum, that's universally accepted that can then be pushed down to state levels. And then this is basically the format that we as an industry, because the whole focus is self-regulation. Like we don't want outside people coming in and telling us how we have to do our job or what products we should be using or how we should be using things. We want to be able to create those rules ourselves internally. So a big piece of that, is trying to get, because I feel like one big piece that we're missing is the education piece, like even what you're saying, like in Pittsburgh, where it's just like people just go on YouTube or TikTok and, watch a few videos and go buy a kit on Amazon. And then, 2 weeks later, they're doing tattoos on themselves and their buddies next door or whatever, and it's kind of really fucking up our whole industry because that just sheds a bad spotlight on the whole overall picture. And the ones that are actually doing it legitimately and right, it just puts us all in a bad light with regulators and people in it. And then they're just saying, well, these guys obviously can't control the tone of their own music, so we got to step in here and do something because
Yeah.
somebody needs to. So I think that's really where the APT shines because they're really trying to set those standards, and they're working hand in hand with these regulatory people so that, because even I was just out in Dallas at AFDO, which is like Association of Food and Drug Officials, and they have a body art panel in that, and there's regulators there, like FDA people, and it was really enlightening to me because a lot of these people are heavily tattooed people and they just want to understand our industry, and they want to understand, if they come into your shop, for example, they really have no idea what you do every day. They're lacking that education from educated people like us. So they want us to come to these meetings and have sit downs with them so that they can better understand, so that they're being fair in like creation of these rules and procedures, so that when they do come in, they're not like, they even said to us, they like, our objective is never to come in and shut a place down. Like that's not, and that's what the stigma I think sometimes is. They're like, oh, these people just want to shut us down, and that, in my estimation, that's not the case at all. They just really want to make sure that the public is safe, and that even as you as an artist are safe. You want bloodborne pathogens and things like that are being adhered to, and so I think the APT is really doing a good job at spearheading those initiatives. But it is alarming, that guys like you don't even know that the APT exists, because we need artists to know that the APT exists and what they're out there doing, and we need artists to get involved in that initiative for sure.
Yeah, I think like what you're describing is like super important. Like a a lot of what I think is wrong in tattooing is just, yeah, the lack of education, not even in just like physically tattooing and stuff, but like cleanliness and client, like artist interactions and stuff. Like more and more every day, I see like people having bad experiences with, what I would say is like not untrained tattooers, but tattooers that don't know how to talk to people. Like, they got a few thousand followers and now think that they can, tell their clients to fuck off to their face and shit. And it's like, that's really not how this business works, man. Like, you saying, fuck you to a client is like all tattooers saying fuck you to that client. Like, they're not going to think of us as individuals at that point anymore. They're going to be like, oh, tattooing is jaded for me now.
Yeah. Yeah, but I see a lot of that within the industry too, as far as tattooers talking to tattooers, if you go on like some of the Facebook groups, that are in my mind, these groups should exist to really like offer constructive criticism to one another and to help us become better artists and better at like bedside manner and like things like that. But instead, if you go in there as an artist and you say, "Hey, I had this experience the other day. My client came in the shop and some negative thing came out of that," instead of artists rallying and supporting you and like offering like constructive advice, it's a lot of like cannibalism and like negativity and like shitting on a person and just being like, fuck, you shouldn't be here. You suck, blah, blah, blah. Your tattoos suck, blah, and it's like, to me, that's crazy mentality to have too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of like misguided anger in tattooing, and there's not a place to put it, so tattooers just take it out on each other. And it's like there's a clear pecking order. Like the better tattooers will always attack the not as good tattooers. Like it's not, there's no, you don't see it the other way around. The for lack of a better word, the not as good tattooers, the shittier tattooers, I see a lot of like humility in them. Like they're always asking for help. They don't think their work's the best or whatever, but they still think they deserve to be tattooing, which I think anybody that wants to tattoo deserves to tattoo.
Sure.
Like that's what we built ourselves on. But yeah, I feel like the pecking order has gotten pretty bad to the point where like people that are significantly better at tattooing have a lot of clout are like using this to kind of like berate, talk down to, and like, you know, not grow the tattoo community, but in a way almost like stagnate it and like deter people from either wanting to be better or whatever. Like I've had when I was younger and tattooing and I sucked, I had some pretty bad experiences with like tattooers that I admired and stuff, and it left like a really bad taste in my mouth, you know. It made me not want to act like, you know, them toward people that admired me. But it I feel like at a certain point you can't really talk people into being like kinder to the younger generation of tattooer, like the I wouldn't even say younger because that implies that we're like physically older. It's like sometimes, you know, 40-year-olds are getting into it and starting out and stuff. But like the newer generations of tattooers.
Yeah. So how do you like, because that's an important topic, I feel like, especially as we evolve in the space and continue to, especially as it pertains to like regulations and things like that. And we really gotta. I had written an article in Skin and Ink magazine a few months ago about gatekeeping and how I felt like we needed to stop gatekeeping, and it kind of triggered a lot of things, especially with like my generation of artists, who really believe in that, traditional apprenticeship model, and like that's the route that you have to come into the industry under, and like my argument's always been that today there just isn't enough artists out there to offer traditional apprenticeships to this to the volume of aspiring artists that are trying to come into the industry. So how do these artists like you, when you started, you wanted to get better, you had some negative experiences because you were getting shut down. How do we stop that trend? Because I'm with you on the page of like, if you truly want to be an artist and you want to become a good tattoo artist, you should have the resources available to you to be able to continually elevate and improve your craft, right? To become better and better, because ultimately you becoming better helps the whole industry become better. So like I I I don't like the word gatekeeping anymore. I switched my language a little bit, and now I say, how do we strengthen the gates? You
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to gatekeep information, but how do we strengthen the gates to keep the wrong ones from coming in, but still make the information available to the right ones coming in? Because I feel like that's what we have to do. I'm not really sure how to accomplish that because, like I said, there just always seems to be this crazy amount of competition in the space that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many facets of tattooing, like shows online, like, you know, micro communities, like the anime tattooers, the Chicano tattooers, the trad tattooers and stuff. There's like space for everyone. So I feel like a lot of, I guess, like the gatekeeping mentality comes from maybe thinking that you're going to lose your place in your own space and that somebody less deserving is going to take that place or whatever. But I agree with you completely that like it shouldn't be gatekeeping, more so like strengthening the community, like figuring out ways like, okay, maybe this guy isn't that great, but his heart's in the right place. He's going about it the right way. He's not scratching. He's not whatever. He's like, he's just trying to get information. He maybe kind of sucks at drawing,
Right.
but like, I would rather somebody kind of suck at drawing that I know is teachable, that is humble, that cares about tattooing and wants to learn the right way through maybe an apprenticeship or, you know, coming in and like getting tattooed themselves to like learn that style specifically or whatever. I think that there should be a more maybe available way to make that happen for tattooing instead of just outright telling people no or like screeching on the internet so your like face is red about something that just can't be changed right now.
Yeah.
Like the way doctors have like medical diaries that they can all like, submit or whatever. Like there should
Mhm.
be some kind of like informational database that like if you're an APT member, you get like a number or whatever, you can log in with your number and then there's like a myriad of like, you know, tattoo videos you can watch or like educational health videos and stuff like that. Like Joshua Carlton just passed away and like I can't find any of his videos. I can't find
Really?
any of his like there's no suppliers selling them anymore. I found like two on eBay. Um I was thinking about buying volume 1 and 2, but they're like selling for like 350 bucks. So it's
Wow.
like the fact that some new tattooers might not ever learn who Joshua Carlton is and they don't know like the insane influence he had on tattooing. Like it makes me feel like depressed, like that this information could potentially get lost someday, or like that I'm not even saying like, oh, like, respect the past or anything. It's like it's not even about like respecting tradition or anything. It's about like this dude was incredible and like the information that he shared with us should not be fucking on a DVD in somebody's shelf. It should be spread in tattooing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point because I've noticed that too, where I have the same concerns. I want one thing I wanted to do with this podcast going forward is really kind of like, and unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity to do that anymore with like Josh Carlton because he's not here with us now. But it's a shame that it's a shame that so many great artists in our craft are leaving or have left, or passed away, and that information, like you said, is either dissolved or has gotten lost somewhere. So I really want to be able to connect with people like that going forward and being able to try to capture some of that. But I don't really know how to quite go about that. You know what I mean? Like I think there's a lot of proprietary stuff there that's probably controlled by people in the family and stuff like that, and they've probably got feelings around why they don't want that stuff out there or whatever. So I'm not
Yeah.
quite entirely sure how to deal with some of that stuff. But I mean, I even think about like Heather Miranda, for example, like in Oregon, she like spent years putting this freaking educational curriculum together, like with like, I mean, the Oregon, schools and things like that, and trying to get an
Hmm.
accredited tattoo program put together. And I just think she kind of lost steam. You know what I mean? Like she just felt like she wasn't getting anywhere with it, and she just kind of pulled it away and just kind of let it go. And I was like, damn, that's a shame because you worked so freaking hard at that, and like that needs to be out there. And like,
Yeah, exactly. I think like some states are too strict, like Oregon. Like I think the hoops that she had to jump through to try to get that started and like still not be able to fully get that to fruition is like a super shame because like Heather A, super fucking talented. B, like super knowledgeable and kind. Like you don't find all three in tattooers very often. Like you either get one or two. You get a really talented really knowledgeable, mean tattooer, or a really nice, really talented, not very knowledgeable tattooer.
right,
But it's like the Venn diagram of like, cheap, fast, good, or whatever. Like, Heather somehow is all three. And the fact that Oregon wasn't willing to like work with her enough to get this program off the ground is like a super shame. And I think like pretty indicative of like how the greater government doesn't really understand what's actually important in tattooing. They just have this kind of like perception of what they feel would make it safe without actually having knowledge and correct input to put into it.
Yeah, I always think back to like when I first started tattooing and like the resources because we didn't even I mean we had the internet, but like I always think back to like Mike DeVries, he always had his blog out there. And like he was a well-respected artist, back in the 90s and like he was like upper echelon tattoo artist back then.
Yeah.
But he never gate kept, like he used that blog and like there were so many artists engaged on that blog and they would just ask Mike questions and he would answer them, like any kind of problems that an artist was having with like whatever in the tattoo process, that and he would just be super informative and like it was a great place to go for resources if you needed to understand or learn something that you were struggling with. And I wonder like with today's technological advances and the information that's available to us, like social media platforms, why more artists aren't doing those kinds of things. And maybe it's just because like it takes so much time to do those things. I have no idea, really, but I'm totally with you. Like I think that I love that reference that you gave with like the medical journals. I never really thought of it like that, but it makes total sense, like to have that information compiled like that.
Yeah, I think it would be just really beneficial to have like some kind of like database that you can access as a tattooer that has like knowledge from other tattooers, not even maybe just strict knowledge, like some opinions, some, you know, like personality in it too, so that you don't just get like this sterile information given to you. It's like it's a culture and not just like an industry and stuff. So like there should be kind of a way that like exemplifies both facets and like kind of brings it to the tattooer and to the user to be able to like absorb the information in like a cohesive way.
Yeah, because now it's like everybody wants to charge you for it. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, everybody's got like a $2,000 seminar when like I could have just literally I had the I can't get over this. I had the Joshua Carlton DVD. It cost me $50 at a convention. And I've been to one of these seminars that cost me like 1,500, $1,700 or something like that. And it's like the $50 DVD taught me $7,000 more or like 7,000 times more than what these like seminars are. It's like, yeah, you're getting some good information and stuff, but like it almost in a weird way felt more personal from the DVD. Like now I'm sitting in this conference room with 90 other people and like, we're listening to this amazing tattooer give all this information and stuff, but like it's drawn out between 2 days and then it's over. Like tattooers used to put like all this information on a DVD and like I had Nico Hurtado DVDs, I had Mike DeVride's DVDs, I had, all sorts of tattoo DVDs, Victor Portugal, and like all this stuff was like such deep, concise information, and like you could put it on repeat, you could share it with your friends and stuff, and there was no like heavy barrier to like getting this information as a tattooer. But now like the barrier is money. Like if you don't have 2 G's to throw down on this, you're never going to be as good as this person because you won't be able to learn from them or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe not you'll never, but like, it'll take you a longer time to like reverse engineer what that process is instead of like,
right.
you get this DVD from a guy that fucking loved tattooing inside and out, just wanted to spread it, just wanted people to tattoo like him because he wanted to see more good tattoos in the world. People gave to him, so he gave back. And like, you just don't see as much without opportunity, I guess. Like, people want something more out of it than just feeling good about contributing to something and like leaving your mark on a place. Like, in when I'm like ancient, on my deathbed, I'm gonna remember like, the things that like enriched my life. And like those DVDs were like a huge part of my like growing career as an artist.
Yeah.
And I feel like that enrichment is like not like locked behind a paywall now.
Do you have any desire to create content like that now that you're more seasoned and experienced and have a lot of knowledge under your belt? Do you have any plans to like create any of that kind of content on your own?
I mean, I've wanted to, but I kind of have like imposter syndrome, you know? Like, it's like I see all these dudes doing the same things that I do, and they do it at like a greater level than I do. And I'm like, well, like, who am I to say like what the right way to do it's, so like, who would really care about what my opinion is and whatnot. But I feel like sometimes I do see people with like misguided but like right intentions, like they want to do the right kind of tattoo. They want to do it in a certain style, but they just don't have the right approach to it and stuff. And like I feel like I'm like a pretty decent hands-on educator. Like I've had two apprentices that were like pretty successful. I helped teach my friend Matt how to tattoo, and he's like an insanely talented, insanely successful tattooer now. And like I take a lot of pride in the fact that like he and I like taught him how to do things very hands-on when he was still learning how to tattoo. Like he would call me over and he'd be like, "Hey, can you stretch the skin so I know exactly how tense it needs to be when I'm tattooing?" And I would do that and he'd be like, "Oh, he's like, I literally just wasn't stretching enough." And like that, lit a light bulb in his head. And I think that like I'm more of a hands-on educator than I am about compiling like concise information and presenting it a certain way, because I just have such rampant ADHD that like I'd probably get started on one topic and then it would end on like, me ranting about my favorite anime episode.
Yeah, I totally get that. The business of tattooing is brought to you by Electrum Supply, the industry leader in high-quality tattoo supplies designed by artists for artists. Whether you need premium stencil products, top-tier cartridges, or game-changing aftercare, Electrum has you covered with innovative, artist-tested solutions you can trust. Want to elevate your work? Head over to electrumsupply.com and stock up on the best gear in the business. And because you're a listener of the business of tattooing, use code podcast10 at checkout for 10% off your next order. Stay sharp, stay stocked, and stay ahead with Electrum Supply. That's a wrap for this episode of The Business of Tattooing. I appreciate you tuning in and being part of this journey to level up the industry one conversation at a time. If you found value in today's episode, do me a favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another artist who could use this knowledge. Got questions or topics you want me to cover? Hit me up on Instagram at NoFlashNinja or email me at rob@electrumsupply.com. And remember, tattooing is an art, but running a successful business is a skill. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time on The Business of Tattooing.